All right, guys, welcome to the State of the Republic. We are going to be talking about all the excitement the playoffs have coming up. We're also going to be talking about the change in league for USL Championship, USL League 1 and League 2, and what that's going to entail for the Republic coming up in the future. Alright guys, welcome back to the Old Glory Red Report. We are doing another State of the Republic. We got our guest with us, Jonathan Glass, joining us. You guys know Mark Anthony, of course, and I'm Casey J. If you're new to the channel, there is a subscription button down there. Please hit that. There's a notification button right next to it. That'll get you all of our videos. Also make sure you hit that. We are going to be talking about the playoffs, so that's where we're going to jump off the conversation. We got Swope Park coming up at the weekend. If we win that, it goes from Phoenix into Timbers. John, what are you thinking about these matchups?
I'm actually excited about these matchups. These are the teams that we've proven we can beat during the regular season. I know the playoffs are a different animal, but we beat the Swope Park Rangers twice now, 3-1.
Yeah.
So I'm confident going in. We're playing them at home. The crowd's going to have a lot of energy. TVB is going to have a lot of energy. I think that's going to fuel us, maybe even to another 3-1 victory.
That would be great. We got Phoenix or Timbers once we beat Swope Park, because we are going to beat Swope Park.
Yes.
What do you think, Mark? Who do you think coming out of that game? You know, Phoenix is in 4th, Timbers, I think they're 7th?
Timbers are in 6th. So,
6th. You're right.
Phoenix
6th.
is the 3rd seed. Timbers are the 6th seed.
So coming out of that game, who do you think is going to be our biggest challenge?
Phoenix for sure. I was actually surprised that they lost to Portland to close out the season. With that being said, I think that they will win their match on Saturday or Friday. They're actually playing a day early, so I think that they will get the job done. They just have too much firepower. I don't think they're going to get shut out like they just did against Portland. Portland's a tough team, though, so not to take anything away from them.
They did just get the win.
Yeah, but Phoenix, in my opinion, they are the best attacking team in the Western Conference. They just have a lot of players that they can just plug and play and are goal-scoring threats. But, they do let in goals, so I think that would be our toughest opponent, though. It would be Phoenix just because they put a lot of stress on our team, and I think that we can handle Portland easier.
Yeah, definitely. And then coming after that game, what we really have to worry about is the winners of the Orange County-St. Louis game. Now, I personally think Orange County is going to be able to take this. I know you guys are kind of rooting for St. Louis a little bit, hoping that might be a little easier game later on. How do you think that game's going to play out, John?
Well, as much as I'd like to see St. Louis win this game, I do think Orange County is going to win it and pretty handily. They've been going hard for a long time, made a lot of good progress. They've worked their way up the table and been consistent and a dangerous threat. We have beat them, but every game we've played them has been tough. It's been a challenge, and I'm not looking forward to facing them again.
No. And in the worst-case scenario, it's going to come down to Orange County probably for us once we get through, Phoenix, Timbers after we take out Swope Park. You think it's going to be a big challenge? You think we can get through Orange County, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, it'll definitely be a tough game. One thing to think about, though, for St. Louis, they are coached by Anthony Poulos, who's Tony Poulos' son. If you don't know who he is, he's a famous English Premier League manager who is famous because of his defensive-minded approach. And it's no surprise that St. Louis actually had 11 draws this year because they do grind out games. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and keep that game tight and try and get it into a shootout type situation.
So you're thinking St. Louis might make it through that one?
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with a very defensive approach and you see a game where it's like 1-0, 1-1, maybe extra time. I don't know if it's going to be so easy for Orange County. You would normally think that the 1 versus 8 matchup should be pretty easy, but as we saw last year with our guys and the year before, we were the 1 seed, we lost to an 8 seed, we were an 8 seed, and we beat a 1 seed. So
anything can happen, right? That's the beauty of the sport.
That is the beauty, and also maybe some gripes with the USL where you do have a playoff and it's not a home and away.
No, it's a
one-off.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a bad day. Your striker can have a bad day.
Absolutely.
Your center back can make a terrible mistake, and all of a sudden, you are out of the playoffs.
The season's done.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how many points your team accumulated in the regular season. It all goes down the drain.
So. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can all probably say that we're going to say Sacramento makes it to the final in the Western Conference, because I doubt any of us are going to really bet against that. Now, in our heads, it might be...
I'm not going to be the guy that does.
In our heads, it might be different. I'm not saying you don't...
Why don't you be the guy who bets against us, and everybody can at the game can yell at you?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
You be the fall guy.
No, actually, So let's talk just quickly about the Eastern Conference. Now, I don't want to get into detail about every team, but let's just jump off on who we think's going to come to the final in that. Let's start with John. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Cincinnati, obviously. Playoffs do again, they're a completely different part of the competition. But Cincinnati has not only spent a lot of money, they've already got allocated MLS money, and they've made some big signings. They've got some good players.
MLS money.
Exactly. They've got Evan Newton, who's always been a great goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I'm sad we lost
the
him.
Golden Glove somehow over Cohen.
Well, he's good in penalty shootout situations.
Yeah.
So,
which,
that's important. In playoffs. I mean, we just talked about it. Like you can have great players. You mentioned it, and they have a lot of good players. They have MLS quality players, but maybe they get in a game where they just can't score. They get 20 shots on goal, and they just can't get it in. But they know that if they get into a shootout situation, they have MLS caliber kick takers. Also, they have a keeper who is experienced in those situations in the USL and has had success.
Yes.
So you're going for FC Cincinnati. I'm assuming that you're going for Cincinnati too with that defense.
I mean, I think that the Eastern Conference. I would be shocked if Cincinnati or Louisville, if one of those two wasn't representing them.
I was going to say Louisville. So.
I mean, they have a good rivalry too. So
I
mean, that's like probably the best rivalry in the Eastern Conference. From my West Coast biased opinion. So, who knows? But the I think the Western Conference is more wide open because I think like teams like St. Louis,
it's a little tighter.
Swope Park, and Portland, and Reno. I mean, I think Reno's going to win their opening match against Monarchs. Monarchs have been tumbling down the standings. They held on. They get the home game, but they don't really have much of a home advantage. Reno can win that game and find themselves in the second round. But in the Eastern Conference, I just think there's a huge gap between the first two teams and the rest.
Yeah, I think that, if you compare I know we've talked about this before, but if you compare the two leagues, I believe overall the Western Conference is far stronger this year than the Eastern Conference is, with maybe the exception of Cincinnati and Louisville. But they also haven't tested themselves against the West Conference teams. They've only been playing against Eastern Conference.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, real quick before we move subjects. So you talked about Reno and the Real Monarchs game. You think Reno's going to get through. How do you think they fare against Orange County coming into that game? If Orange County makes it over St. Louis, of course.
It'll be interesting because Reno does like to play a very narrow formation. They like to keep things tight, but they can break out and score goals. So it will be a clash of styles. But I mean, it's hard to bet against Orange County because they're as hot as anyone right now. I mean, they score a lot of goals. They defend pretty well too, but for my money, they'll get through. I think a dream scenario for us would be us hosting the Western Conference Championship against Reno.
That would be great.
At home.
The drama.
Because we would see some Reno fans where we wouldn't get some fans maybe from Real Monarchs, St. Louis, OC. I don't know how many people from the Orange County Coalition would show up, but there'd probably be a few. But Reno would be like so close. It'd just be it would be the one game that could really kick off the rivalry to another level. So
right. And the travel support could just be amazing.
That would be pretty cool.
And I would also kind of love to beat Reno to get to the USL Cup. That would be amazing. Gives us the bragging rights for at least a season, and
it's probably their dream scenario too. Like if we were fans of, like if Reno was in second place and we were in their spot, we'd be hoping to face Reno on the other side of the bracket, so we could go.
Yeah, really.
So I mean, they're probably wanting the same thing. So maybe for a couple weeks we're actually friends.
Yeah, hey, maybe the results go the right way, maybe it works out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to moving into the playoff game coming up against Swope Park and then possibly Phoenix or Timbers after that. Who are some guys that you think really need to perform coming into this? We'll start with Mark on this one.
I think the key, absolutely 100%, will be our left and right back in this game because we talked about it. Swope Park, they have two pacey, very strong physically wingers, and Belmar and Barry. I mean, we saw firsthand what they can do to Gomez and Horde those are very good players in their own right, but
Barry
that
was
will be, I think, the key matchup of the game. When we watch the game on Saturday, we're going to see Swope knock the ball wide, and we're going to see those two guys try and go 1v1.
Absolutely. Try to get it into Blackwood.
And it will be, but to go off of that, it's not just a 1v1. Like, guys like Jeremy Hall. Jeremy Hall will need a shade over. He'll need to provide that extra cover for, when one of those players cuts inside. And also our center backs. Like, the positioning will need to be there because even if you're defending well, when there's a guy coming in on the wing, especially from like the corner of the box, you're going to have to give up something. So if you can get two guys there and make them, turn around and knock the ball backwards, that is, ideal. So that's where I think those two players are going to need to step up. I think we're pretty sure that both those guys are going to start for us.
I would agree too.
Yeah. So that's what I see.
What about you?
I was thinking, especially a couple players have really come into form the last few games, and after that, the terrible loss to the LA Galaxy, you've seen kind of a turnaround in mentalities. You've seen players like Elliot Horde really kick it up a notch. He's been playing phenomenally.
Absolutely. He's got some great crosses recently.
Oh, yeah. Emmer Clemente has been eliminating his mistakes, especially 3 games in a row where he allowed for a penalty situation inside the box. Players like that, I think, really need to make sure they're consistent. And when they are, they're very much a big part to our success. Yuri Mariasic has been playing really well too, and then also Vilian Bijev. He has been earlier on in the season. I thought he was too selfish, and then as it progressed, I thought he was too unselfish. And I feel like right now he's kind of found a good balance between when he should be selfish and when he shouldn't be selfish.
Yeah,
and those are kind of the key players that I see for continuing. I mean, obviously Cameron Awase is always consistent. And even when he doesn't score, he's still dangerous.
Yeah.
So the 3, I guess 3 key players, or 4, Horde, Clemente, Bijev, and Mariasic. Those are the 4 that I think we need to have really good form from.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with both of your guys' thinking on that. Our defense is going to be key against Swope, and if we play Timbers or Phoenix, because those are all teams that have firepower. Coming down to Orange County, or even if it is Reno, all teams, again, they can put the ball in the back of the net. So the defense is going to be very important. To me, it's going to be the bench players that we have. We're going to need to see Alaman come off the bench and perform and give us something when maybe we're not creating, because we don't want to take it to penalties. We talked about it in the last video. We're not a penalty team, obviously. So we don't want to take it to penalties. We want someone to come off the bench.
I couldn't even tell you who our 5 would be.
Yeah.
I mean, Awasa would be one of them.
Hall would
probably be one of them.
You'd imagine
your guess is as good as mine.
If Alaman's on and Matty Asic's on, they're going to probably
would
take
be
him.
one of them.
So, guys coming off the bench, depending on whether he gets to start now, I don't think he will, but Isley might come off the bench and, hold up the play against a team like Swope if we're not being able to get through that midfield, because they do swamp down the midfield quite a bit. Someone more direct. We need those players to come off the bench and really step up. So I guess we kind of covered the whole team between all 3 of us, but I think, it's key that all these players are doing what they're doing, and we need to take the opportunities that we've been given.
I would be surprised if Isley started this game because against Swope, he was dominated by their center backs. He's a guy that's more of a target man, and he was just getting physically outmanned by both of their center backs all game long. I would expect to see Awasa play up top just because he provides more of a threat in behind the defenders, gives them something to think about, and he's got a lower center of gravity where he can hold off the ball a little bit better than Isley can, especially against those opponents. I think you'll see Bijev on one side. I actually think you'll see Alaman on the other, with Matty Josic playing that attacking midfielder role, and Hall and Partain as like the holding mids. I think that's probably our best formation.
4-2-3-1-ish again?
Yeah, 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, but regardless, you got your 3 in the middle, Hall, Partain, with Matty Josic above, and then your 2 guys out wide, Bijev, Kevin Alaman, and then, of course, Awasa up top. That's what I think would be our best lineup for a Swope. Maybe not every game, depends on the team, but I think that would give their defense the most problems.
Yeah. Can you agree with that, or is there someone you might change in the lineup?
I would actually like to see Isley up top.
I like Isley in there. I think
he
gives us something.
He had a great assist last game, too. Then when he knocked that ball down to Awasa, I mean, that was a beautiful, unselfish play by him.
Yeah. Which my top 3 would be Bijev, Awasa, up top, and Isley. That's who I'd like to see. and maybe it is the case. He like Mark said, he was dominated. So maybe Aleman, because Aleman had a great game recently with a brace. But
in that scenario, where do they play? If Isley, Awasa, and Bijev are up top, is Isley or Awasa on one of the wings, or
no? Awasa would be center, and then Bijev and Isley on the wings.
Okay, so you put Isley out wide. Okay.
Awasa would play just behind Isley.
No,
Awasa would play center.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we also see a 4-4-2 type formation in this game too, where you could put, I don't know, maybe a guy like a Speedo on the outside and a guy like Bijev, and then you have Isley and Awasa up top. It's a possibility. Maybe even put a Matty Josic on a wing with Bijev on the other.
Yeah.
Elliott has shown faith in Espino by putting him as a striker against the last game of the season against Vegas. He was playing up top. We saw him play it out in the wing the game before that against Swope. So, he's always an option for the coach.
And other than Matthew Harding, obviously, Espino would have been my player of the match last game. Obviously, he didn't score, but he, I think, created the biggest threat throughout the field, all around the pitch. He had a beautiful shot. He had a couple beautiful shots. He had a bunch of beautiful runs, and his penalty kick, while it went straight to the goalie, it looked really nice. So I would like
that
to
he
see,
had. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Excuse me.
It was a good attempt. He got on the frame. Obviously, you want to put it in the corner, but you want to hit the frame first and foremost. So.
Well, and he did have a good cross against Swope Park Rangers too, where he, I think it was into Iwasa for the header in the box. So give him credit for that. I unfortunately don't think he's the best on playing defense, getting back and tracking. And I think when he's playing on the wing, that's a very big weakness for him. Swope played right through him every time, and Barry had the free run up that wing because they were playing right through the midfield for me. And so that's disappointing. I did like to see him more up on top. The coach, again, does have faith in him, so you may see him in the lineup. Okay, so moving on for the next conversation, I would like to talk a little bit about, everyone's probably seen the USL Championship change and kind of what that entails. Is the reffing going to be a little bit better? I mean, not just against us, but in many games I've watched this season in the USL, the reffing has just been subpar. Last game, he gave a card to somebody that wasn't involved in the play, didn't card the guy that actually did the challenge. Me and you talked about this in the stands. How are you feeling about that?
I don't think we'll see a change in the officiating.
You don't think so? You don't think?
Maybe it's just me being cynical. But,
I know. I'm with you. I don't think they'll change it.
They're rebranding, and I do like the direction that they're going in with the reshuffling, having the different tiers inside the USL, not just throwing every single team in one division, which I think is obviously a step in the right direction because there's so many different size clubs. There's academy clubs.
Yeah.
There's teams that should be probably in different leagues entirely, but so it is nice to see that. But in terms of, they're going to use the same referees, and a lot of these referees
they don't think they're going to try to expect a higher quality.
Well, a lot of these referees are MLS referees too. They might not have the ability to use VAR and have maybe extra referees looking at plays in a booth somewhere where they're looking at reviews and things like that. But it is what it is, and it is hard to implement something like that with the different stadiums and things like that. So.
And especially with the rate that the USL has been expanding, that's going to require additional referees, which you're maybe going to... Yeah, it's going to thin the pool out, going to require you to call up people who aren't necessarily qualified or experienced.
It might actually help, though. You bring up a good point, because they could end up doing something like... For some of these referees that ref MLS and USL, they usually start off in USL, and then they have so many matches accumulated, and then they get their chance at MLS. So maybe they use the lower divisions in the USL to get better referees in the USL Championship division. You would think, right? You would think, but
I'm in the same mindset as you. I don't think we're going to see any improvement. I think it's just, hey, we're rebranding. It's going to look pretty. And again, it's the step in the right direction. I think we talked about this in the video you were on with me the other day is, it's going to take a while before any real big change happens.
Yeah.
But the next thing I want to address coming into is, and I think this is something that they need to address quickly, especially if they want to make this change work and make the image stick as a quality league, the commentators, the streams we get. You know, it's great that they put it on ESPN Plus, and people will have their argument back and forth. You know, I don't want to pay for it. I do want to pay for it. But we expected a better quality streaming, especially with some of the two teams that don't fill stadiums and that don't get a good quality stream. I think that just makes the league look bad, in my opinion. And I think that's something that they need to address league-wide. John, what do you think about that?
And you know, I would agree with you. There have been many times where the commentating has been so bad I've muted it. Like I would rather just watch it in silence and listen. And I don't know if the USL needs to just hire a couple guest commentators to commentate some games, because it doesn't seem like some teams are committed to providing quality commentators. We're very fortunate to have two really great and passionate commentators, and there have been a couple teams who've had pretty good commentators, but overall I've been very underwhelmed at the quality of commentating. And I would say, you know, first and foremost, again, as a fan, I have a hard time watching my team play at other stadiums with their commentators.
It's so biased. It's so, like, I don't know.
I mean, I think you get a wide range of presentations, like broadcasts, because there's a wide range of clubs that are in the league. So you have some of these teams, like the two teams, like Portland, Seattle, and I'm not singling out any club in the USL, but if you think about it, if it's your two team playing in front of like 500 fans and there's like maybe 800 people watching around the world your game, you're just probably going to have your other commentating crew, or maybe the local high school soccer crew,
or some radio DJ guy or something.
Yeah, maybe you're giving an intern a chance and they're unpaid, so it's like maybe it's their first gig or something like that. I mean, some of these clubs, they're not really trying to shell out money for, Joe Buck and things like that, right? So, what's the guy the English guy that does the commentary for the U.S. games? Go USA.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where, like, Sacramento, like, we have a really strong standalone club, so we're able to get a guy like Rob McAllister who does our games on TV, where he knows a lot about the community. He knows a lot about the team. He's been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's invested time in the players. He knows what he's doing, right? So who knows who these other guys are with these other clubs, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely, and I think
it's a mixed bag.
I think if you're going to make the league look better, if you want the league to be taken seriously as a league that's going to rival, other leagues, you gotta have commentators that know what they're talking.
Yeah.
I mean, in one game, the guy called out a player's number on the Republic like 30. We don't even have a 30 on our team. Like, it's bad when you don't even do your minimal homework to do your job. So that's disappointing. Coming in the next season, I want to talk about the lower attendance that we've seen, and maybe some things that you guys think that the front office could do to maybe help drive some attendance. We talked about it a little bit. Why don't you share what you had for that?
And for me, a lot of it has to do with kind of the ovations. There's the long lines for all the food trucks. I don't think they have enough food options. Like, I've gotten there, I've had to wait 20, even 30 minutes, and I've missed parts of the match because I'm waiting for my food. I'm not impressed with the selection of beer. And it's not something I'm willing to pay. Like, it's mostly either IPAs or like Coors or Bud or something like that, which I'm not into. And I also think we need our own kind of identity out there. Like, I've had this floating my back of my head, like our own craft beer, something that the fans can get behind. Like,
that'd be cool. I would drink it.
Like the Sacramento Kings, for example, have the Pride ale, like pale ale or whatever, because like Pride is their slogan, right?
That would be pretty cool.
And for me, I'm thinking the Old Glory Red Ale.
Old Glory Red Report with the little register sign.
So that's kind of
Republic.
And I think New Helvetia, they've got a great red, and they've also got a picture of the Tower Bridge on most of their cans. New Helvetia should be the one to do it. But those are some of the things
we can contact them.
Get on that. Yeah.
At them on Twitter.
Those are some of the things that I'm thinking when it comes to improving the fan experience. Food lines too long, craft beers too expensive and not a good enough selection, and something that makes it our own.
I think, honestly, there's some MLS fatigue to be honest.
I agree.
I just think
100%.
that it doesn't matter what your feeling is on if you care or don't care, but I think that generally speaking, most people are hopeful and have been hopeful for a few years now that this club will progress and get that bid. So there's been a lot of either negative news or non-news, I would like to say, because we keep getting the press release that's the generic. We're in the late stages with 55 different investors.
Big things are happening behind the scenes.
I made up a number, but you know what I mean. It's like a general statement that, MLS and us, we're still committed. We're in the late stages, and I just think that message after some time gets old, like to people who are hopeful, and even people who don't care because they don't want to hear it. So I think there is some fatigue there. I think for, a casual fan, I would say that we're not in that category. We're a little bit higher than that. But like a casual fan who's been hopeful, who maybe is wanting to, that'd be cool to see Villa and Vela and Zlatan play in Sacramento. And then after a couple years, it's like, just let me know when they're going to be in the MLS. Yeah. I think that's what we're seeing, because a lot of times the tickets are actually paid for. The tickets are paid for a lot, and I think that we've just seen some fatigue there. But you make up a good point. It does seem like the food and drink options have gone lower in quality and in accessibility. There's less food trucks. I've noticed that too. I feel like there's more desserts, but not food.
Lemonades.
Yeah, I see like the sweets, which are great. That's awesome. But, nobody wants to wait 30 minutes to get, chili fries or something like that, right?
Yeah. So, honestly, I think you guys both touched on great points. It's the whole fan experience recently for me. I think that the front office maybe got a little greedy with the whole MLS thing coming in. They raised prices on tickets. Ovation hasn't been very good. Not being able to tailgate. I think that the whole game day
tailgating is a thing.
I think the whole game day fan experience just lacks, and the front office needs to take a harder stance or try to figure out maybe to move somewhere else where they can have a better situation. And I don't know the possibility. I don't know the logistics. I didn't look into it, so don't jump on me about where would we move and all that. I can see that now.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. They're not, Papa Murphy's Park is part of Cal Expo. So
they don't
Republic is technically renting that space, right? So they don't get to make a lot of those decisions.
But they need to stand up harder to the people that make that decision.
But the vendors, like the parking, like things like that, that's stuff that they can argue against, they can debate against, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones making that call.
But it's up to them to know that this is killing fan experience. This is bringing people not... we're selling those tickets, but we're not getting them there, and this is a reason why. So they need to stand up and say, let's do that. Like I said, I don't have an alternative plan, but,
I think it's just a lot of these factors, like 5% of this, 5% of that, and it adds up to a bigger thing. Even paying for parking, you pay $20, $25 for tickets or more, and then you figure you have to pay another $10, and then you can't tailgate. So then that you're paying $12 a beer, $10 a soda, whatever it is. You're $5 for water.
You're in almost $100 for one person if you want to have a decent time. And like you said, you don't even get to tailgate. You don't get anything.
And I'm pretty sure that Republic fans pay the most out of any USL club in terms of their game day experience when it comes to when you add tickets, when you add just living in California and everything just being way more expensive than everywhere else.
Yeah.
I just think that we're paying more. I mean, we're paying as much as people who go to Earthquakes games for sure.
Well, if you're going to charge me $12 beers when I get inside, let me tailgate an hour beforehand, please. You can balance some of these prices. If you're not making money because you lower your beer, you don't make money, fine. But then give me the perk of allowing me to tailgate a little bit or doing something else to give and take on that relationship. But right now, you're pretty much just strangleholding us into paying $60 in beer every freaking game.
Yeah, and that part of going real briefly on that, I've been spending less time, and I think a lot of people have. I've been spending less time in the actual stadium because a lot of times I know that they're not going to have like a beer or food selection that I want. So I will go out and go somewhere beforehand to get a beer and get food that I like, and then come into the match.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to go to the stadium and have a good time there. I don't want to go somewhere else to get what I want.
Especially for someone who has children and you don't have maybe 2 hours before the match where you can kill. Like you have 30 to 45 minutes before the match, and then you got to get home.
Yeah.
So you want to be able in that time to do all those things, right?
Yes.
So that I can definitely understand that. But I'm not like being an apologist for the club or anything like that. But they are hamstrung into what they can and cannot do. And really their alternative at the end of the day is moving to a different place. Like they can move and play at Sac State.
That's what they have to decide as a front office.
But then again, then you run into different issues. Until they have their own stadium, they're going to have to be playing by somebody else's rules.
Absolutely.
And I think that as fans, as much as it sucks sometimes, we do need to realize that it's not really their fault. Like, they can push for things.
Yeah. Well.
But at the end of the day, if you're renting my apartment, like, I'm kind of calling the shots, right?
But if I don't like those shots, then I'm going to move away from that
Exactly.
situation. I'm just going to be a person
You're going to have to
doesn't-
rent somewhere else,
Yeah,
right?
so I don't have a solution for that, so I understand.
There's not a lot of venues in Sacramento,
I understand
though.
the
That's
devil's
like another
advocate
thing.
of that, and again, we've talked about it. They're doing the best. They've always put out a great team, so we don't want to discredit the front office for what they do. And
it's a
what
good
they provide.
facility for what we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
not
you
trying to
take a look
discredit
at the other venues across the USL when you watch those games.
They're just going to keep losing fans the longer this goes on.
You watch the games with the crappy commentary,
Yeah.
and then you see like they're playing at like a park with like a couple benches.
Well,
some places like San Antonio have a beautiful stadium.
Yeah.
We talked about
and
it.
Orange County too.
Yeah, Orange
I
County,
would love
yep.
to go down to Orange County and catch.
Maybe we will. Maybe in 2
That'd be
weeks.
great.
we're running long, so let's wrap up. Thanks for Jonathan for coming out.
Pleasure.
Mark here, always appreciate you.
Oh, thanks. That was the first time you said
KCJ.
that.
I tell you all the time off camera. KCJ, thanks for you guys for watching. Again, do subscribe. There'll be a subscribe button popping up right about here. There'll be a video over here for you to watch that YouTube
Probably
thinks
the
is great.
pre-match video for this Saturday.
I'll put the pre-match over here.
over here.
That'll be one you like over there. Until
Where
next
John
time,
is, 'cause
guys.
we like him.
Appreciate everyone coming out. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.